All right.
All right, it's 12:05. We're going to call a policy board for the Capital Region Council of Governments to order. Our first item of business is public comment, and I will ask if there's anybody from the public who would like to address the policy board. Asking a second time. Asking a third time. Hearing no public comment, we'll move on to the approval of our meeting minutes from December 17th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. John Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Is there a second?
Second, Wendy Mack.
Thank you, Wendy. Any corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Minutes are adopted. Staff reports. Matt, you want to lead off?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we'd like to take care of our action items first, and then we'll get to the staff report. So if we could jump to item number 6, and I can speak to it briefly, then I'll ask Pauline to elaborate.
Fair enough.
Very good, thank you. So we are looking for the board's approval of this resolution to approve a Regional Performance Incentive Program grant application for a shared finance officer for one of our communities and then another community outside of our region. So for those of you who are new, the Regional Performance Incentive Program grant, that is state funded, administered by OPM. COGS and our education equivalents, the RESCs, are the only entities that are eligible to apply, and we apply on behalf of our towns and school districts. And the RPIP grant can be used to start up to subsidize a new regional service or eligible initiative. Typically provides roughly 3 years of startup funding to help get something up and running. It's a way to incentivize service sharing. So with that brief introduction, Pauline, can you elaborate on the particular application that's in front of the board today?
So Marlboro has been looking for a finance officer for quite some time and unable to fill that role. They actually had been talking to Woodbury. No, I don't remember where. Woodbridge. Thank you. I knew it was a CRCOG town, and they are looking at they are looking to share as well a finance director. So it was a meeting of happenstance of two towns that have the same need at the same time. And so they're looking towards trying it out using the RPIP grant.
Thank you so much, Pauline. So that's a brief overview, Mr. Chairman. Now I'll turn it back to you to entertain a motion, and then we can address any questions that board members may have, and then you could move to a vote.
Okay. Then I would ask for a motion from a member of the policy board.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you,
Second.
Steve. Asking again, is there a second?
John
Second,
Coleman,
Ken Lesser.
second.
Thank you, Mayor Lesser. Any discussion on the resolution?
I just want to comment that I think this is really, really good. I appreciate CROG staff's work on this along with the Marlboro team, and I am hopeful that this ends up paying dividends and is a good model for the rest of us that are facing similar challenges.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comment? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Number 7, an authorization for the use of regional funds annually for 3 years for economic development. Matt, you wanted to start?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'll lead off, and I can ask Pauline again to elaborate. And this item has been endorsed by our executive committee. So for those of you who are at the most recent executive committee meeting, you'll recall this. So we are seeking the board's approval to authorize the use of regional funds for a 3-year period to support our economic development program. So why are we doing this? So we hired an economic development coordinator in 2024 to assist with the implementation of our regional economic development strategy. It's called a Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or a CEDS, and to help us manage this program so that we could leverage federal funds for economic development purposes. So our intent was to partially fund this staff position through an EDA partnership grant, which is a rolling 3-year grant that's awarded to economic development districts, and we have that certification nationwide. It's $70,000 a year. So we were in the queue for this grant. We thought we were going to receive it. We satisfied all legal and programmatic requirements, but unfortunately, we were informed that we would not be receiving a federal partnership grant at this time, but we're continuing to work for it. So what is the regional fund? For those of you who are new, that is something that CROG established back in 2016, 2017 to help support regional projects and initiatives. And a portion of the dues that each of your towns pay to CROG go towards this regional fund. And we contribute roughly $100,000 a year out of the dues into this fund. So we think that this is a very important initiative, the Economic Development Initiative. It's still a relatively new program here at CROG that we are looking to grow and enhance over time. So we would like to leverage the regional fund for $70,000 a year over the next 3 years to supplement that federal funding that we thought we were going to receive, but are now will be waiting at least for some time longer. So we're looking for $70,000 a year out of this fund again for a 3-year period to support our economic development program. And we can use it as a match, as a required match moving forward as well. The executive committee did endorse this resolution for your approval at its meeting on January 14th. Pauline, do you want to add any additional background or comments to my overview?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
So turning it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for any questions and then to move to a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. We did have a pretty good discussion about this at the executive committee. I see Steve has his hand up. Steve.
Just a question for Matt or Pauline. So is that the position was established in 2024? Is that currently filled?
Yes.
Okay. So without this, then we'd be looking at a loss of a position.
Well, we would work to maintain it, but it would negatively impact us in other ways, yes. And
Gotcha.
it could potentially be a long-term outcome.
Okay. And then what feedback did we get from the EDA on why the application was unsuccessful? Just very competitive, or did they give any pointers for future applications?
So
Okay. Pauline, did you want to field that, or you want me to start?
yeah, I'll feel that. So they haven't said no yet officially. So I will say last week I got a call from the EDA representative, or Matt did, and I called her back because he was in a meeting. And she said, we just want to make sure you're still interested in that grant. So, and when I look on the EDA portal, it says warrants further warrants further consideration. So they haven't said no to us yet, but they haven't said yes yet. And there are other EDDs that got their partnership grants almost a year ago. So it's not a straight out no, but it hasn't been a straight out yes. And the fact that she asked us if we're still interested makes me think maybe it's coming sometime, maybe.
And if I could just add to Pauline's brief explanation, thank you for the question, Steve. So we were informed that this was a political decision made at a higher level within the agency. We had satisfied all legal and programmatic requirements.
That's
So,
help. That's helpful, and I was worried that that was maybe part of it. No, well, I think well, I'll unless there's any other questions, I'll make a motion to uh, approve this action item.
I thought we did that already. But if not, I'll ask for a second.
I'll second it. John Coleman.
John, further discussion on this?
Not to monopolize the time, but I think this is great use of CROG, and this is the sort of initiative that regionally I think helps us all by having you know CROG as a overall regional representative thinking of economic development in regional terms because unfortunately we often pit ourselves against one another when vying for economic development and tax incentives, and I think this is a really good policy area for CROG to be focusing on. So I fully support it.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Turning now to tip amendments. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Committee did not obtain a quorum yesterday. But they did have discussion of the items, and I'm going to let Rob do the presentation. So the items now come directly to the policy board acting as the MPO. If I was a betting person, I believe that the Transportation Committee would have approved all of the items that they were forwarding to you. But I'm unable to say that today because we did not have a quorum. But I personally recommend approval of all of them, and I would turn it over to Rob to just give the details.
Thanks, John. As John mentioned, we didn't have a quorum. We did have 12 participants, which is short of our quorum of 20, just to give context, and none had any concerns on any of the MPO items. So I will add that before explaining. But we have 4 tip amendments this month. The largest is Amendment 1, which is a expansion of the Wyndham Regional Transit District facility. This is $49 million, which is a sizable tip amendment. It's for a new project. It's to double the size of the facility to include charging stations for 50 vehicles. This is in response to the state law that requires all buses, no more purchase of fossil fuel buses in the state, and therefore our transit districts are going electric and need charging facilities, appropriate charging facilities for buses, in addition to the facility just getting a general rehab. So this is funded by a competitive grant called Low No through FTA funding that was awarded, and then some state match. So it's a competitive grant and state match, and it's FTA funding, and it's the appropriate funding source for that type of project. The next 3 items, 2 through 4, are for design funds, not construction. The number 2 is about $3 million to replace traffic control signals at various locations. There are 17 locations, 15 of which are in CROG in 10 of our municipalities. In the handout, there is a listing of where those locations are in 10 of our municipalities. But you'd have to pull that up to see exactly the locations. But it's signal replacement. It's with STP Anywhere funds, which we're happy to use anywhere in our region because they can be used anywhere in the state. So that's item number 2. Item 3 is replacing $1 million for design to replace noise barriers and guide rails on I-84 using National Highway Performance Program funding, which is appropriate for freeway type facilities. This is in Plainville. And number That was number 3. Number 4 is in East Hartford. It's a bridge in poor condition. It's design funds to design bridge improvements to bring that up to satisfactory conditions of a ramp off I-84 eastbound in East Hartford. It's in the whole Mix Master complex with the Route 2 and local roads and 84 complex in East Hartford to improve a bridge in poor condition. That's using national bridge replacement funding, which is the appropriate funding source. So all are the appropriate funding sources according to CREG staff. And the meeting yesterday, which was not an official transportation committee meeting, we did present and did not hear any objections, but we would be looking for a motion to approve these amendments.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, John. May I ask for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the motion for the tip amendments.
I second that motion.
I'm sorry, I missed the second.
David Porter from Marlboro.
Thank you, David. Lisa, you have a question.
Yeah, I just, in looking at these, I noticed that for the expansion of Wyndham Transit District, it lists Mansfield as the member town that gets some benefit from that. Coventry also utilizes that transit district. Just FYI.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there are a number of Wyndham Regional Transit District routes that touch our region in various forms. So thank you for that.
Rob, quick question. With respect to the electric buses, given the policy changes at the federal level, is there any concern that we will have trouble sourcing these buses? You know, will there be kind of enough available to purchase? Or are manufacturers still going to make them in the numbers required to meet that mandate?
I know procurement is difficult already, so I assume this will not help. I don't know what the future holds, but I know there are some issues with procurement already. It's very lengthy process and very and costly.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Rob or John? Hearing none, we do have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say no. Amendments are approved. John, I think we're staying with you for the resolution.
Yeah, I'm going to let Rob do this.
Okay, Rob, back to you.
Yeah, there's a resolution in your packet to accept a Protect grant for resilience improvement planning and vulnerability assessment for non-coastal Connecticut. So NVCOG was the official applicant for this grant on behalf of all 4 interior COGs. They did get awarded the grant, and it's for resiliency planning. And CROG will benefit from this grant just as the other 3 COGs do. The resolution will allow Matt to sign a contract with NVCOG for us to be a subrecipient for grant funding. A similar resolution was passed about a year ago for the same project, although it only authorized us to sign with FHWA. We also need to be able to sign with NVCOG. So it's really sort of an amendment to a prior resolution that was passed a year ago. So we'd recommend approval from the policy board.
Thank you for that. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jeff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to number 10, the adoption of the East Coast Greenway Gap Closure Study final report. I'm going to turn to Caitlin Palmer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I've got a lot to cover with not a lot of time, so I'm going to jump right in. So thank you again. For the last couple of years, I've been project manager on the Capital Region East Coast Greenway Study, helped by Mike Cipriano in our office. So thank you very much, Mike. And we're just going to quickly run through the study, mostly focusing on what we've been up to really in the last 6 months. Some of you may recall if you were able to attend the July meeting of the Transportation Committee acting on behalf of Policy Board. I gave a brief presentation at that point. So this one is similar but different. So thank you very much. Really quickly, for those who are less familiar with the East Coast Greenway, I'll note that roughly 200 miles of the Greenway is identified through the state of Connecticut, and a substantial portion of that through the Capital Region. But just to note that our portion in Connecticut is a smaller part of a larger network, a 3,000-mile vision stretching all the way from Maine to Florida. So that's really exciting for us. And the study was really focusing on what we referred to in the gap of the off-road network piece. And if you go to the next slide, that off-road piece is really important. It sort of is the heart of the East Coast Greenway vision, and so therefore was an incredibly important part of our study goal, because the off-road alignment, that separation from vehicles, is what really allows the Greenway to be used by all users, regardless of their age or ability. And then there's just a quick snapshot of the study area. So stretching from the west in Simsbury, from the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail, essentially looking to close the gap between that portion of Simsbury with the dashed line, Bloomfield, Hartford, and East Hartford, where it meets up with the existing Charter Oak Greenway. And I will note that Policy Board has actually already seen and endorsed the recommendations that were done for the town of Simsbury at an earlier part of the process, because they had a distinct task that we wrapped up. The last point I will make on this slide is that CROG, CTDOT, these municipalities, we've all been working really for decades to figure out what this alignment could be. And one of the other goals of this study was really to sort of close the book on the planning phase so that we could move into the next phase, which would be design and construction. And it's just a more complicated area, lots more natural and man-made obstacles to work around. So it's no wonder it's taken all of us a little bit longer. Next slide, please. Really quickly, this is just a slide touching on, again, the work that we've done in the last 6 months, roughly. So we published the draft final report at the end of June. As I mentioned, we presented to TC in July. And really since then, we've done a variety of more formal presentations, as well as some more informal engagement with communities over the summer at some very, very hot community events. I think Mike and I melted a couple of times. So this is just a snapshot of that, presenting or giving up people the opportunity to go and check out the report in what ended up being I think it was a 53-day comment period. Next slide, please. So super quickly, just what we heard, really positive feedback, just in general, particularly at the pop-up events. I've put a couple of quotes on the screen for you. But again, just really positive feedback, and also received some constructive feedback as well. So where it made sense, we integrated stuff like that second comment about crossing Cottage Grove Road in Bloomfield. We integrated that where appropriate once the public comment period closed. Next slide, please. So really quickly, I'm realizing I'm not sharing, so I can't move my cursor through the slides, but I've got 3 super quick slides. Thank you. Starting at the top of the screen for each one of the communities. So up at the top, you probably can't see it. There's a blue line. That's the existing Bloomfield Terriffill connector that connects Bloomfield to Simsbury. So that's essentially where we started, and building off of work that the town had already done, essentially propose a rail with trail all the way down to their town center, right around that Park Avenue area. At that point, we take a little bit of break from the rail with trail configuration and really make some amazing connections all the way down to, if you can see Cottage Grove Road, then you might know that's where the Capaco Shopping Center is. So some really just amazing connections that we're making to the high school, the senior and the rec center, Capaco Shopping Center as well, which I think will be particularly useful for Bloomfield and Hartford residents. And then we're back to rail with trail as we leave the town of Bloomfield. Next slide. And then starting up at the top again, Rail with Trail out of Bloomfield and into Hartford, where we continued that as our proposal down to roughly Albany Avenue. There's a lot of lines happening on the map in Hartford. I'll walk through, I think, most of them. At Albany Avenue, though, what we eventually proposed was a sort of a two-route system, a choose-your-own-adventure option for users, following that more bright green line, if you will, through Keeney Park. We will eventually make a connection to the new Riverfront Recapture Park that they're working on and down Joe Marfuji Riverwalk to the existing Riverfront Recapture Park there in downtown Hartford. And then if you were to go back to Albany Avenue again, you're doing a great job, by the way, thank you. We then have another option that we are proposing, which is a more direct connection to downtown along the Griffin or the Homestead corridor. And that sort of thicker line just indicates that the city of Hartford has a couple of options for how they would like to do this. And our study doesn't really recommend any one particular option. We just recommend this geographic location for the trail alignment. And then at that point, you go past Union Station, and then you connect to either the existing East Coast Greenway that's already signed through Bushnell Park over to Founders Bridge, or the city is also working on a phased bike ped connection through downtown North. At that point, you can move forward. Once we cross the Founders Bridge, we are now in East Hartford. Again, utilizing some Riverfront Recapture Park, which is Great River Park in East Hartford. I should note that dash line, Hartford has one as well. That's an interim route. So when the river area does flood, which it does and it will, there is an interim route. And then at that point, sort of all that bright pink is indicating a lot of state road or state right-of-way and infrastructure that we are proposing taking advantage of, essentially making a connection through sort of the center of our project area along Silver Lane Corridor, which we heard loud and clear early in the process. That was a key goal for the town of East Hartford. And then the only other note that I'll make on here is we pretty much take that all the way. It's got a slight, that very end, we have like our one single largest on-road segment on Clement Road before connecting to the Charter Oak Greenway, which is that blue line that leads out of the screen. Sorry, yeah, over there, thank you. One note I will make is when we were going to East Hartford Town Council, we had originally proposed a culvert under Robert Street just because we were concerned about the traffic volumes at the intersection of Roberts and Silver Lane. But the council expressed a lot of concerns about safety, maintenance, and other concerns if we were to do a culvert. So just to note that that is one thing that we addressed throughout the document just to align with the East Hartford Town Council resolution, that instead the preferred alignment goes to the intersection at Robert Street and Silver Lane. But we did leave in the document information should the town at any point decide that they would like to look into a grade separated crossing. That information is still in the report. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, I'm not going to spend any time on this slide, but this is the entirety of the preferred alignment. Basically, that bright green line is the one that we've been working on for the last couple of years. And then next slide. I'm zooming through. I'm not going to spend time on this except to say that there is a chapter in the study document about community connections, recognizing from the onset that this was, a very big, it's a regionally significant as well as statewide significant greenway that we're working on, but the importance of community connections was a consideration from us for the get-go. So there is a chapter in here for each community that really focuses on key community connections that could be made for residents, especially within about half mile of the trail. Next slide, please. So these next couple of slides are really focused on moving from this planning phase into and being ready for that design phase. So as it relates to that, we've got renderings and costs within our study document. There's also a map book, which sort of takes you segment by segment at a higher level of design than what you see in here, just to, again, prepare municipalities or DOT or CROG to help, again, maybe acquire grant funding. So starting off with just a couple of renderings, we have a before and after. If you click the next slide, you can see the after. FHI did a really great job on this. So there's quite a few included in the study document. Next slide, please. Here's the cost slide. So it is broken down if you're curious by community, so you can kind of see where some of the costs are coming from. Probably most everybody is looking at the giant green box though, where I've got the totals. So the total cost for the alignment that we've identified with a couple of caveats is $76.7 million. So close to 77 million for the entirety. It was an anticipated gap of around 12 miles in the end, particularly with the two routes in Hartford and some, actual real feasible routes that we've identified. The total is closer to 17 miles with an average cost per mile of around 4.6 million. I will just note that the table on the left does not take out the East Hartford culvert, but the costs on the right in the box that does. So the culvert was identified at roughly 1.5 million. So that's not included in the total alignment cost that I'm showing right there. Next slide, please. And I would be remiss if I didn't follow up a slide with a big price tag to also talk about potentially the big potential benefits that come with trails. We had actually done some economic work as well as part of our study to help towns when they were looking at, sort of the universe of options and trying to narrow it down. But I wanted to call our attention to this one. This was a study that was released, I think, late in 2025. So not only is it recent, but it's not a economic study about trails that's from a different state. It's hyperlocal to Connecticut. It's looking at the New Haven Northampton Canal Greenway, which is apparently the third name for a portion of our project area, which is also the Farmington Heritage Canal Trail, which is also East Coast Greenway, which is why trail planning was so confusing for me when I first started this project, I think. But all that to say is this economic impact analysis looked at this trail, which again overlaps with our study area and our East Coast Greenway. And basically, that last bullet in particular, the trail, which is only 80% complete right now, is estimated to bring in or generate $68 to $114 million in sales once it's completed. So again, just making the case, which is actually sort of a Connecticut-based impact study on how much of an economic driver trails can be for our region. And next slide, this is really my last one, and it's just kind of showing where we are in the process. So again, this was all outlined along in the memo as well as far as the draft final study that was published in our comment period when we received all of our local municipal endorsements on our draft study document. We've incorporated all of the public comments we received, DOT comments we received, and of course that East Hartford Town Council resolution comment about the culvert, and have packaged it up, included it in a final study, and are presenting it for your review and potentially approval today. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. So, Mr. Chairman, I know that Congressman Courtney has joined us, but if we could take action on this item, we'd appreciate it. We'd be looking for your approval of the study and the attached resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I'd so move.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Yeah, Wendy Mack from Simsbury will second it.
Any further discussion? Caitlin, great job on this. Wendy, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Caitlin and Mike, we've dealt with you on our portion, the initial portion from connecting Bloomfield to Simsbury to Terriffill. We have a long way to go to get from there up to the main drag, but just to see this all happening, it's just great for our community, for tourism, for commuting, if anybody's going to do that, and bringing people to town. So we're all for it. And I did love the pictures of Bloomfield High School because that's my alma mater, to see that bike trail go through there. That was kind of cool. That's all.
You got a hell of an education.
I did.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? And Matt, you said that our special guest has arrived?
Yes.
Thank
Very
you.
pleased that Congressman Courtney is here with us today, but I'll let you introduce him further, Jason.
Well, I don't think Congressman Courtney needs much of an introduction, but he's represented the 2nd Congressional District since 2007. And in my estimation, is one of the best guys in Congress, and we'd be all better served to have more people like Joe Courtney representing us in Congress. Congressman, you're always welcome here, and it's always nice to see you.
Well, I got nowhere to go but downhill after those kind words, Jason. But it's good to see you and many others. listening to the conversation at the tail end of the last segment. Full disclosure, I grew up in West Hartford and went to Northwest Catholic High School. So, even though I now represent 63 towns east of the river, we're a small state, and obviously the priorities of CROG, which includes many second district towns, but the proximity of we're all sort of in the same team. So and definitely have worked with Matt over the years when he was in Mansfield, and Pauline Yoder with the Crumbling Foundations program. So CROG really makes a difference, and particularly in a time like this where there's so many sort of external sort of asteroids sort of hitting government. It's just, I think it's really important to have groups like CROG where, again, you can't communicate too much these days. So what I thought I'd do was just kind of give a quick snapshot. And I'm not going to, belabor, too much in terms of what's going on in Washington. I know, probably looking around, many of you follow what's going on down there like a box score. So I don't need to, go into it too much, but again, quick, sort of reminder about the fact that right now the Senate actually is in session, even though the rest of Washington is pretty much paralyzed because of the storm down there. Again, the office buildings are closed along with basically most of the government, but obviously the Senate has to meet, given the fact that we've got a shutdown deadline on Saturday for a good chunk of the government. And, last week when the House took up the spending bills, again, I think most of you probably were following this, but again, it was two bills. One bill had it was basically an omnibus, which covered over half the government: Department of Defense, Department of Education, Health and Human Services, Labor, all the financial budgets for Treasury, etc. And the good news is, unlike just about everything else in the 119th Congress, it passed with a really healthy bipartisan majority. The second bill, which was split off because there wasn't that bipartisan agreement on, was the Department of Homeland Security. That did pass, but again, it was by a pretty narrow margin. And the bills were sort of consolidated after passage based on the rule that was adopted consideration in the House. And so it's one bill that's now sitting before the Senate. Obviously the events that are happening in Minnesota, as well as just a whole, months-long process of, real concern and anger really about the way the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, and the Border Patrol have been, operating in the U.S., was going to make it's somewhat challenging for the Senate to try and figure out a way to get the package through in its entirety. And obviously the events of last weekend just, really, made intensified really the degree of difficulty in terms of making that sort of come together. So Susan Collins, who's the chair of the Appropriations Committee, who's, really the committee that has to sort of be the quarterback for the bill, has already said, we're going to try and find a way to, sort of thread the needle here. But most scenarios where maybe if you split the bills apart, as they were taken up in the House, means that the bill would have to come back to the House from the Senate. Right now, the House is not scheduled to be in. So, and we're not getting any real sort of heads up to be on standby to fly down, in case of that scenario. So who knows? I mean, this thing, again, they may find a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat and get this thing done to avoid a shutdown, or there may be a short shutdown, or there may be a continuing resolution. I mean, it's all still up in the air. The good news is that the first omnibus bill, which I described, and this definitely would affect municipalities, key programs which really were, had the threat of massive cuts, whether it's education funding like Title I, special education, Perkins grants, the career technical training programs, Department of Health and Human Services. Again, you just sort of go through many of the programs, which again are really foundational for school budgets and other, transportation and other issues for municipalities, they were able to basically deflect and protect all of those programs, which I just mentioned, in terms of the bill that came out and that was passed, as I said, on a bipartisan basis. Rosa DeLauro, who again was sort of in charge on the Democratic side in terms of putting that package together, I think really did an amazing work in terms of again getting past the really hyper polarized legislation that actually came out of the majority in the House. One issue in particular, which is near and dear to University of Connecticut at Storrs, but also University of Connecticut John Dempsey Hospital up in Farmington, was that the NIH funding, particularly for research and development in terms of health programs, whether it's Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, again, they were looking at cuts that OMB had proposed when the budget came over. And not only were those cuts blocked and avoided, but actually there was a boost that was given to NIH funding, which I think most people, and certainly I think that's the case in Connecticut, understand that that kind of investment not only is good for the people of this country, but it keeps our science and medical sector really at the cutting edge internationally. And so again, it was really reassuring to see that in that particular area, which I think really kind of stunned people when back in January and February when OMB was cutting grants that had already been obligated to institutions like UConn, again, are going to be protected as written in the bill as it presently stands. So again, we'll know more by Thursday, Friday, Saturday in terms of just whether or not something comes together. And again, certainly if people have a question or two, happy to answer it. One other item that was included in the omnibuses was community funded projects. We used to call them earmarks, which again were back in play with this budget cycle. And I know there was communities, second district communities, that again would benefit from getting this bill through. And again, so some of those community funded projects are also kind of hanging in the balance in terms of trying to see whether or not this thing comes together. I'm sure Congressman Larson had a number of CFPs that he also had sort of navigated through the appropriations process and were included in the omnibus. So again, that's obviously something that also would have direct impact in terms of local budgets and priorities that people are really counting on. One last thing, and again, I obviously want to open up to questions, but and this is sort of a little bit more second district focused, but I did want to share with you, I was at a meeting this morning with some of the folks that are involved in job training programs right now because of the huge amount of hiring that has been going on down in the southeastern part of the state and is continuing to go on. This morning, there were about 3,300 job openings down in Groton, Connecticut at the shipyard. There's about another 800 or 900 job openings at Quonset Point. In terms of, what's going to be, and this is just this year. I mean, if you look at the projections moving out, the top line of the workforce is going to exceed 33,000, which is it's never been that big in the past. And the one thing that I think the people in the HR department and the job training programs that are been working on this issue is that they realize that geographically there's just sort of a limit to how much you can find in southeastern Connecticut and eastern Connecticut. And so now there are going to be initiatives, for example, setting up job training classes up at Cheney Tech up in Manchester. There's going to be Ready CT guidance counseling programs in comprehensive high schools that again are going to be sort of situated outside again of the immediate radius of southeastern Connecticut, because we have got to find more people. And the benefit obviously is that these are now, particularly with the latest labor contracts that were negotiated, as well as some wage improvement money that was put in by the Navy. I mean, these are definitely really solid careers with really good benefits. And as I said, this is something that the state of Connecticut is really going to benefit from, including the capital region. And just wanted to kind of share that with you, because I'm sure a lot of you don't probably follow that as closely as some of us in, east of the river. But this sort of surge of work is actually now moving north and moving west, in terms of just the opportunity, particularly for high school age and younger kids out there, in terms of an economic future for themselves and their families. So Matt, I can stop there if that's okay. And then, again, if people have any questions, happy to see if I can help.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We greatly appreciate your leadership.
Congressman, as always, thank you for being here, and I will open it up to any questions that anybody might have about the happenings in Washington. Lisa.
I actually don't have a question, just two thank yous. First of all, speaking of the community grants, we're very grateful to you, Congressman, here in Coventry, for the close to $500,000 that we just received to assist with our police dispatch, and replacing our very outdated body cams and dashboard cams. It's, I like to tell my constituents that when you help us in a way like that, it means, in a sense, we're not having to double bill our taxpayers. So we will not have to put that $500,000 into our budget this year. And we have brought those dollars back to our community. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to thank you for signing on to the articles of impeachment against Secretary Noem. I think we need to see actions like that right now, in the face of the horrors such as we're seeing in Minneapolis. So very grateful to you. Thank you.
Sure. So at one point I want to make about Lisa's community funded project. That actually was part of the early omnibus that already passed and has been signed into law. So the Coventry Police Department is, definitely across the finish line, and that project will be funded. There are other projects which, again, our office helped navigate, like in Mansfield, which was a basically a transit oriented and streetscape sort of project, which unfortunately was not part of that earlier package. And so, you're going to have a little bit more heartburn in terms of, I see Ryan on the call there, but in terms of, whether or not that one's going to make it. And
Right.
as far as Department of Homeland Security, the impeachment, I don't take that lightly at all. But the fact of the matter is that, the stuff about secret memos, so that they basically have carte blanche to go inside people's homes, which, completely flies in the face of the mission of the Department of Homeland Security, when you think about it. To me, was sort of the tipping point where, we've just got to send a message that this department has really just sort of lost its moorings. And my dad was an FBI agent, definitely grew up with law enforcement respect, growing up. And but this what we're seeing happen right now is just so far out of the norms that, as I said, I think for a lot of people, it's about 140 members now on the resolution that are just saying enough's enough.
Ryan.
Yeah, so Congressman touched on, what I wanted to express my thanks for. He's absolutely right that a critically important pedestrian safety improvement project that we're looking to ultimately get 100% funded. We still have a long way to go in our funding journey. He was instrumental in helping us get $1 million towards what is probably, once the budget gets updated, probably well north of $3.5 million project now, all in with design and construction, but a portion of town that we really need to improve service for safety reasons, for the exploding multifamily housing development in the northwestern part of town where a lot of students are residing. And so, yes, on behalf of Mansfield, even though we still have a lot of work to do and continue to actively explore other sources of funding, just really want to express our gratitude for the support, instrumental support and advocacy that the Congressman has provided for that project to date.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. I think we're going to get there, but like I said, it may just be a little more of a journey. So,
Well, we appreciate your help along the way.
Any other questions or comments for Congressman Courtney?
Mr. Chairman, John Coleman, I can't seem to keep my hand up, but it keeps
you were
cutting out, but it's not a question, it's a hello. A long ago Northwest Catholic High School, a young lady by the name of Maureen Ellen, who is my wife, sends her fond regards to the congressman. And while we live in Bloomfield, she has followed his career all along the way, and is very proud that he is representing the part of Connecticut that he is and what he does for us in Washington. So hello from Maureen Ellen, Congressman.
sure. Thank you, and give her my best.
Any other questions or comments for the congressman? Congressman Courtney, I'm sorry, Brian, your hand is up.
Thank you. In light of that, I just wanted to say hello and thank you for all you do from another fellow Northwest Catholic graduate. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
We're everywhere.
Congressman, as always, thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us. And when you're not able to be here, thank you for sending staff to give updates with what your office is up to and what the happenings in Washington are as they pertain to our region. We certainly very much appreciate it. And as an aside, Matt Hart and I will be in Washington next week for the National Association of Regional Councils of Government, and hope to have a chance to visit with you in your office down in DC.
Great. That's awesome. Look forward to seeing you guys.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you, Congressman.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
He is just a great guy. Okay, turning back to the call of the agenda, I think, Matt, did you want to do staff reports or a legislative update first?
Donna, do you have a couple minutes? I know you have a 1 o'clock commitment.
Yeah, no problem. I can stay on.
So why don't you go next then?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's still okay to say Happy New Year. It's nice to see everyone. I'm really looking forward to this new year and this upcoming legislative session. You won't hear me say that as we get further into the session, but for now, I'm looking forward to the excitement as it starts. As most of you know, this year is a short session and is also an election year. Starts on February 4th and ends on May 6th. Being a short session, the real difference is really that it's mainly supposed to be focused on budget adjustments or budget related matters, but it does really end up being a session that's much broader than that in a shorter time frame. One of the other key differences between a long session and a short session is that in this short session, only committee co-chairs can raise bills for consideration. And so because of that, Matt and I and others have been meeting with legislative co-chairs of the relevant committees based on our legislative agenda. And we have a couple more this week and next week so that we can round out those meetings in hopes that some of our legislative agenda makes it into some bills this year. Outside of that, just for folks who may not know, and just really quickly related to the short session, the first day really is an address by the governor. It's more ceremonial. He will announce his budget adjustments for the biennium. And the following day, the Secretary of OPM will present this budget to the Appropriations Committee, and that then starts the budget making process for the short legislative session. And similarly to last session, the committees will then begin their work and deliberate over bills. The one couple things that I'd love to impart is the public hearings are a really critical piece of this session. They come up very fast. They will likely start in March and we start in February. So it's pretty quick as far as public hearings go. And the committee work will also be pretty quick. So I would encourage you all, if you have any interest and as you see any updates from me and Matt, to certainly lean in on public hearings. The more, the merrier. Since COVID, it's made it a lot easier for folks to jump in virtually. And quite frankly, I think the majority of folks that do testify do that virtually. So please feel free to offer yourself and happy to help with a testimony if that's of interest. And another key date, March 5th, we are having another legislative breakfast. So it's our second breakfast whereby all of you are invited to join us at the Legislative Office Building to sit with the members of the region's delegation to ask them questions, to hear updates from them, but also to give them some information around our legislative agenda and to hear maybe their feedback on the possibilities around the legislative agenda and its ability to make it through the process. That is really quickly in a nutshell what I wanted to put forward. But Matt, I'll turn it to you if you have anything additional to add.
Yeah, thank you so much, Donna, for your update and all your work. I'm very pleased to announce that we've got new leadership at the Legislative Committee. Jason, our chairman, has done a tremendous job in recent years, but now that he's Policy Board Chair, Lisa Thomas from Coventry is succeeding Jason as chair of our Legislative Committee, and Mayor Connor Martin from East Hartford will be the vice chair. And shortly, we will be scheduling monthly meetings for the Legislative Committee through the remainder of this session. So Donna can take any quick questions, Mr. Chairman. I know you need to leave, and Mayor Lesser will be prepared to take over for you when you need to depart today. We should be able to wrap up by 1:15, 1:20 at the latest.
Well, in that case, I'm going to take this opportunity to excuse myself at this juncture and pass the chair over to Mayor Lesser.
Thank you, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. And Matt, the next item is staff reports.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor Lesser. Really appreciate it. And I understand if folks need to log off, but we do have some important information, so hopefully you can stay on. Before I dive in, a brief note of congratulations, and I want to introduce you to a couple of folks. Laura Frankowski, who you know well, our executive assistant. Laura is on maternity leave and just had a baby girl. So we want to congratulate her, congratulate Laura and her partner, Adam, and baby girl, Shyla. So really pleased to welcome Shyla to the CROG family. Also want to welcome all of our new policy board members. A couple of you are joining us for the first time today because you took office for January 1st. We had a couple of very successful, I think, orientation sessions. But if you're new and did not have an opportunity to attend one of our orientation sessions, please reach out to me and we'll connect one-on-one. Also want to welcome a couple of new members to our team. Jack Triner, who is a transportation planner, and then Tenley Ransom, who is a GIS and data analyst. So very pleased to welcome them to the CROG team as well. As Jason Bauza said earlier, this weekend, he and I will be attending the National Association of Regional Councils Conference. They hold it every year in DC. We'll have an opportunity to meet with all of our congressional reps as well as our senators, and we'll provide you with an update at your next meeting. Next item, and discuss this with the executive committee. Chairman Bowes and I and other leaders really would like to conduct a retreat for the policy board. It's been a couple of years since we've done this. It is something we should do, in my view, every few years to make sure that we're staying current with your priorities. So we're going to start off with an update of our strategic plan. We call that our strategic playbook. And then we're looking to identify other key issues that you want to talk about and explore during this 2-year term. Doreen, I forgot to introduce Doreen. Doreen Hemme, if you want to wave hello, Doreen. Doreen is filling in for Laura during her maternity leave. So you're going to be getting emails from Doreen, you probably have already, under the executive assistant at CROG email address. Doreen has sent out this doodle poll, and there are 3 options for this retreat. This will be an in-person retreat here in CROG's facility. So please complete this poll if you haven't already, so that we can choose the date that works for most of you. Last item on this slide, pleased to announce that I've been appointed to the Board of Directors for Sustainable CT. I know many of you, your communities are certified by Sustainable CT, so I'm looking forward to serving in that capacity. And I am also the new chair of the Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations, which is a 25-member commission that really focuses in on the relationship between the state and our municipalities and school districts. So I want to thank Governor Lamont for his support and the nomination. Moving on to talk about a few key funding opportunities, our Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund Program, our RLF. We do have $500,000 available to fund eligible brownfield projects. We're accepting applications on a rolling basis. Here's a link which you'll get when we send out the PowerPoint where you can learn more. Secondly, and this could be one, if not the most popular grant we administer here at CROG for transportation, the Local Transportation Capital Improvement Program. That solicitation is out now. All of the Transportation Committee members should be well aware of it. We've got $45 million region-wide, and we will accept applications until 2 p.m. on February 18th. And there's a link where you can learn more about that program too. The U.S. Department of Transportation is accepting applications for what's called the BUILD grant program, formerly RAISE. This is for more costly transportation-related infrastructure. There's a link for more information here. Applications are due February 24th. You can always reach out to Elizabeth Sanderson on our team. Elizabeth, if you want to wave hello and stick your email address in the chat. Elizabeth does a great job getting all of this grant information out to our members. And then on the competitive bidding side, our Capital Region Purchasing Coalition has a bid out for fuel and diesel right now, and it's going to close on February 19th. And Kim Bona staffs our purchasing coalition. Please don't hesitate to reach out to her with any questions. A couple of key project updates for you. Our public safety team, led by Cheryl Assis, I want to commend them for the good work they're doing, hosting training opportunities around our region. They held a tactical emergency casualty care class on January 9th in West Hartford. Very well received. Registration is open now for a sport and special event risk management and planning course that will be held on March 4th through the 5th in East Hartford. Also planning a 5-day rescue course in Enfield, and they're planning for the first ever full-day dive team workshop. If you have any questions about these training opportunities, if you'd like us to host one in your community, please do not hesitate to reach out to Cheryl. Switching gears a little bit, coming to municipal services, happy to report that our consultant who's working on our Regional Waste Authority project did present their draft. It has a variety of good recommendations for us related to how we better recycle in our region, how we can do a better job diverting organics, handling residential and commercial waste. And our Central Connecticut Solid Waste Authority, we do support it here at CROG. We've got 14 members. If your community is not a member, we'd be happy to have you. And we'll be submitting our final report to DEEP by the end of this month, later this week. And then in the area of climate resiliency, we did submit an application on behalf of 2 of our towns, Newington and Berlin, for a Climate Resilience Fund grant to address stormwater issues at 3 culvert locations in their communities. So that's kind of a representation of some of the main projects we have in the works. Moving on to committee reports, our executive committee last met on January 14th. I talked about the fact that they appointed Lisa Thomas and Mayor Martin as chair and vice chair of our legislative committee, respectively, excuse me. Really want to thank them for taking on that important role. Peter Souza, I think, had to leave. Peter Souza is the chair of our Municipal Services Committee. You know, he will be providing reports from the committee in the future. but they did meet on January 13th. We got a good presentation from our state's GIS team. We also provided them with an overview of the new housing bill. They will meet again on February 10th at 12 p.m. If you do not have an appointment to the Municipal Services Committee, I would strongly encourage you to do so. And Kim Bona staffs that committee. Last committee update I have, and then we'll talk about some upcoming events. The Capital Region Chiefs of Police Association, we do staff them through Cheryl Assis. They had a good meeting in January. They had a roundtable discussion geared towards professional development, particularly for deputy chiefs and those who aspire to be command staff. Over 120 participants from around our region. So that's a very broad reach. And want to thank Manchester Chief Darby, East Hartford Chief Hawkins, New Britain Chief Marino, and Wethersfield Chief Medina for serving on the panel. And of course, Cheryl Assis for coordinating it all. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to wrap up with meetings and events and then can take any questions. If you haven't already done so, would strongly encourage you to sign up for the workshop we're going to have here at CROG on this Thursday, January 29th, with a social media expert, Sam Tolles. So if you have questions in terms of how you can best leverage and manage social media in your role as either a chief elected or a chief appointed official, this workshop is for you. There'll be a morning session and an afternoon session. There are more slots available in the afternoon. We were able to, Sam is offering us a very discounted price. So there'll be a link to sign up to that workshop if you haven't already. And then you probably have also received an invitation from CCM this Friday morning, and I apologize for the typo, from 9 to 10:30 a.m. I will correct this, from 9 to 10:30 a.m. this Friday morning. CCM, the Council of Small Towns, and the Association of COGs, we're going to host a virtual webinar on the new housing bill. And you can register for that through CCM. And Caitlin Palmer and I will be two of the handful of presenters. And lastly, we're going to hold our next board meeting. It will be virtual. We'll go back to the Wednesday schedule, noon on February 25th. That completes my report, Mayor. Happy to take any questions you and others may have, and then we can just touch on a few items under correspondence and handouts.
Thank you, Matt. Does anybody have any questions of Matt? Seeing none, correspondence and handouts, back to you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Very importantly, conflict of interest form. So this is something that all policy board members do need to complete. It was a recommendation coming from our auditors a few years ago. So really, you can complete this form online. We'll make sure you've received the link already. We'll resend it again. It's relatively painless. If you can do it soon, and it'll come back to us, we'd greatly appreciate it. And then I've got links here to our hazard mitigation and climate adaptation annual report, various letters of support that we've provided to our towns that are applying for state and federal grants. I've got a link to our monthly newsletter featuring the town of East Windsor and others. I want to thank Aaliyah for her good work preparing the newsletter each and every month. Our funding newsletter that Elizabeth Sanderson takes the lead on. And then last but not least, our digital annual report. And I want to commend and thank Nick Lanza, who is a graduate student intern here at CROG, for his good work in preparing that report. Happy to take any questions that you or others may have on those too, Mayor.
Thank you for that great update, Matt. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing it none, is there any other items of business, Matt?
Nothing from the staff. I don't know if members have anything.
Anybody have anything to bring up before we adjourn? Seeing none, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second?
Second, Lisa Thomas.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? I think that concludes our meeting. Stay safe and warm, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you all so much.
Bye. Thank you.